Hey everyone, welcome back to new series of Python, and this is a continuation of for loop. And in today's video, we will discuss about the nested for loop as well as how to use loops with zip function. So first, we will begin with the nested for loop. That is, in Python, nested for loops are the loops within the loops, and they are used to iterate over multiple sequences or elements simultaneously. So here you can consider the outer loop that iterates over its elements for each iteration. Then the inner loops iterates over its element. This creates a combinatorial effect, allowing you to process elements from both sequences in a systematic manner. Now, when you just move on to the syntax here, you can see that first for loop will be used for the outer elements. To iterate through the outer elements in the outer sequence. And the second for loop will be used for the inner elements and iterating through the inner sequence. Okay. So afterwards, we will be using the code to execute for each combinations of outer elements and inner elements. Now let's consider two lists. Let's name it as outer list and inner list. So it has got random integer numbers as well as the string over here. Now I'll be using a for loop for getting the elements in the outer loop. Okay, so for and in order to store each of the elements from this outer list, we have to consider a variable. So I'll be using it as outer num because this contains integers or numbers. Okay, so outer num is a variable where we will be storing or assigning the integer values. So outer num in, from which sequence we are getting that? We are just going to get the outer list over here. So we will be searching or traversing through all the elements in the outer list. Okay, so you can provide the name over here, that is outer list, and we just need to get the elements over here. So you can use a print function, and we know we are just storing the elements in the outer num. So I'll be using outer num over here as the object name. Now I just need an identification over here, so I'll be giving it as on and let me rent this. So here you can see that currently we have just got all the elements, or we have just traversed with all the elements in the sequence. Now I just need to consider the elements from the inner list. Okay, so for the time being, let me comment everything and let me consider the other for loop. So for here you can see that this inner list contains the strings, and each of the single strings is known as a character, right? So we can basically say that it's a character. So I'll be setting the name as inner char, because into this we will be storing our individual characters or the elements in this list. So we are just going to make a traversal in the inner list. So you can just provide the object name over there and use a colon. Now I just need to traverse with every element, and I just need to print that in the console. So I'll be using the print function, and you can provide the object name over here, that is inner char, and later on we just need an identification over here, and let's say that we just need to rent the file, and here you can find the result over here. Okay, that's cool, right? Now let me comment the print functions, and let me just uncomment the for loops. Okay, or you can just remove these things from here, and we know while providing the for loops or nesting the loops, here you can see an error over here, because we know nested loop is nothing but that is a loop inside another loop, right? So here you can see that the outer loop is the first loop. Okay, so within this we need to provide the inner loop. So I'll be just using the tab to get the proper indentation over there, and I just need to print the result. So when we just use the for loop, I just want to get the result like 1a, 1b, 1c, 2a, 2b, 2c. So from this, we can conclude that actually the outer loop iterates over its element for each iteration. Okay, so whenever we just go through the iterations, it's iterate through each element for each iteration, and the inner loops iterate over its elements only. Okay, so when you just use two for loops, whenever you make iterations, this will take the first element, then go with the the other element. Then again this will take the first element, then would choose B. Then again when we make an iteration, this takes the first element of this list and just go with the other element. Okay, so this step will be repeated. Now we just need to get the result. To get the result, we will be using the print function, and you can just give the object name over here. So the object name is outer num, because in this variable we are just storing each of the elements from the outer list. And you can see we can just use the other object name as inner character, inner char, as the characters are stored in that object. Now let me run the file, and here you can see currently we have just got the result. So whenever we just run the file, here you can see that the first loop has made an iteration with each of the elements in the second list, and you can see in each iterations it's pointing to the other one. Like we can say that it's basically following 1A, 1B, 1C. That is the first result. Then again it will make another iteration. So whenever it's completed with 1C, first iteration is completed over there. Now it will be moving to the second iteration. So it will take the elements like 2A, 2B, 2C. So once that's completed, it will consider the third element in the first for loop. Then it will take the elements from the second list. And here you can see the result like 3A, 3B and 3C. And finally, we have just done with the iteration in this process. Okay. Now let's move on to the Python function for loop with zip. The zip function takes multiple iterables as input and returns an iterator of iterable, and each iterable contains elements from corresponding position in the input iterable. So this might create a little confusion for you, because we are just repeating the term iterator and iterable for multiple times, right? So this can be easily actually identified through an example, which means that when we just use the zip function, it would allow you to get the output over multiple sequences simultaneously by pairing corresponding elements together. So here you can see this index that is for element 1, element 2 in zip function. Then you can provide the list or tuple or string over here. Okay, so here you can find the code that let me consider two lists. Let's say name is equal to a list, and it has got some names over here. That is Alice, Bob, and Charlie. These are the names. And let me consider the other list. Let's say it's age, because it has a group of ages over here of these persons or names such as Alice and Bob and Charlie. Now we just need to map with we just need to map the names with their age. Okay, so in such cases we just use the zip function, because that would allow you to pair the out. So I'll be setting the out as 25, 30 and 35. Okay, now you can use the for loop and use two variables to store the name as well as the age respectively. So I'll be using a variable called name in order to store the names, and let's separate it by comma and use the other variable in which we just assign each of the age one by one. Okay, and we can see the zip function, how the zip function is used. Now for name comma age in zip is the function, so you can use the zip function, and you can pass the iteratable over here. So the iteratable is a list that is names and ages, and here you can just pass that names comma ages, and let's close this by a colon, and now we just need to get the result. So here we know the age as well as the name is stored in these variable. Okay, that is in name and age. So you can provide the object name over here, that is name comma age. And as you just run the file here, you can see that now we will get the output which is in pair. Okay, so as you just run this here, you can see that the age of Alice is 25, the age of Bob is 30, and age of Charlie is 35. So in order to get the result in a pair or to get simultaneously, you can basically use the zip function. So that's all for today. I hope this video clarifies how to use the zip function as well as the nested loop in Python. And thank you for watching the video.